130 years ago, a group of missionaries set out from Philadelphia, led by a man in his 20s named Peter Cameron Scott. Their mission? To reach the interior of Africa for Christ, beginning in Kenya. Just a year after his arrival, Scott died from malaria, leaving the seeds of a work which became Africa Inland Missions and Africa Inland's Church. Today, Kenya identifies as 80% Christian. There are now 7,000 AIC churches with millions of members. But despite a rich Christian tradition and thousands of active Christian works, Kenya remains a nation plagued by poverty and defined by public corruption. Tonight we are talking with one of the leaders of a movement to make Kenya an outpost for integrity. My guest tonight is Dr. Timothy Kiruhi. He's the Vice Chancellor of Kenya's International Leadership University. He began his academic career in mechanical engineering, but somewhere along the way developed a passion for forming and supporting leaders. He now leads International Leadership University in Kenya, helping recruit and train men and women willing to become servant leaders, those who lead with character, integrity, and humility. Recently, our producer, Jeff Coleman, met Dr. Kiruhi in Kenya and said the university and the man who leads it has a story to be told. Dr. Kiruhi, after hearing so much about you, it's finally a privilege to meet you in person, or at least virtually. Welcome to State of Independence.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe. It's an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, it's just great to have you. I know you're an extraordinarily well-educated man. You've got a master's degree and a PhD. Not many people anywhere in the world have all that. You do, which is a blessing. But tell me what life is like for people in Kenya, like the average person in Kenya who's maybe not well-educated like you are, who maybe is not educated at all. What is like life expectancy for people in Kenya, and what is the average annual income for working people in Kenya? Like, how much money do they make in a year?
Well, thank you very much, Joe. It's an honor to again be here and share a little bit about my country, Kenya. I'll begin by saying Africa is actually the most endowed continent on Earth. In terms of natural resources, nice weather, land size, people, God did everything to bless Africa. And many times when we ask him to bless us some more, sometimes I wonder, what more could he do? Unfortunately, as you said, the average person does not enjoy that quality of life that God desired for us and designed for us because we have not been good stewards of our creation and all that endowment that God has given us. So to be specific, yes, the average person will make maybe less than $1 a day. So you can see that in a year, they'll hardly make maybe $350, maybe $400 dollars to use your currency. And so you can see it's very little for anyone to live on. And therefore, then they just basically eke a living on the very continent that God placed all the earth's abundance. That really is what gets me to want to do something about bridging that gap between God's design and man's current experience. And of course, that state of poverty brings hopelessness. People are easily exploited by political leadership or others who want to take advantage of them. They'll possibly even, give up on their values, even when they know what is right to do. And that's why, although we are largely a Christian country, and the statistics you mentioned are correct, that about 86% of us actually identified as Christians in the last census in 2019. However, that evidence is not found in terms of our everyday experience, whether it's the state of affairs in our public service or, the way that everybody lives in society and community. Yeah, so that is the gap.
Yeah, how long do people live? If people are making $400 a year, $300 a year, how long do they expect to live?
Well, unfortunately, because of that, challenge, many people overwork and are compensated, and other challenges. Health, of course, health services are poor, not well managed by public service. So you'll find that maybe the average man would possibly live about 57 years. The ladies can go up to 59, thereabout. But you can see that these are not, and this has been improving slightly. It's good to give credit where it's due, but of course, it is nowhere near what is comparable. So yes, of course, like you said, among maybe the more learned or more endowed, they'll afford better health services. They can extend that, but yeah, we're talking about the average person here.
Yeah. So for somebody who's educated like you, or for somebody who goes into a leadership position in government or in administration, of course they make good money, they live good lives, they have good income, and I would imagine that's part of the reason why there's corruption, because it'd be so easy to, I suppose, do whatever it is that you need to do to make money, that you might leave your moral compass behind or your integrity behind. If you had a chance to make thousands of dollars as opposed to a few $100s, most people would jump at the chance to make thousands of dollars a year as opposed to a few $100s a year. And they might even say, it doesn't matter what you want me to do, I'll do it, because at least if I'm making more money, I can live a better quality of life than I'm living right now.
Well, that's true. Of course, that temptation is higher, I guess, in our context, given that, of course, that gap between the haves and the have-nots, if you put it that way.
Yeah.
However, of course, it's also a challenge of greed, because it's never enough, and in fact, the people who steal the most are those with the most. It's not the people at the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak. It's like the people at the top. And what do they do with it? Many times, they will externalize that money, take it outside of the country. It's no longer in circulation. So the already small economy is even further impoverished, because then the money that was available for circulation, that should create jobs and create, help with the public health system, public transport, and other services, and of course, then it's no longer here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, of course, they play ball with maybe sometimes other players outside of our context. Whether it is international players, sometimes it's conglomerates and, multinational companies, of course, that exploit their situation because of the vulnerability of the people who are here. But really, that's why, one of the big teachings here is contentment. And then, of course, servant leadership, so that you are living and working for the welfare of others. There is no greater joy than that. But unfortunately, many people miss it when they focus, focus towards themselves.
Yeah. How did you come to do this wonderful work that you do? I mean, with your education background, you were educated in the United States. I mean, you could be anywhere. You could be in the United States of America, or you could be in Kenya, or you could be in Europe if you wanted to, and doing very, very well for yourself, comfortably, not having to worry about what's happening in Kenya. But you've been very intentional about listening to God's call in your life. And so tell us how you came to be the vice chancellor. You're really running it. You're the CEO of that university, which is wonderful. But tell us how it came to be.
Oh, this is just a token from the Lord. This is grace. I never thought I would ever be here. When I was a university student, my background training is in engineering. We had lots of opportunities at that time. Our university was the only one that produced engineers for the country. In fact, the industries, and we had many thriving industries at the time, would come and queue for the engineers because there were few. And so it was not easy, certainly, to make a call at that decision as a young 23-year-old, to make a commitment to follow Christ into my, into the working, into ministry and mission work, where I was going. Of course, I knew I'd be deprived. It will not be as well-paying as, of course, I would have had in my engineering job. And so my university too had invited me to do further studies. I had done well in my first degree. It's like, I think in the US you still talk about cum laude and cum laude, in terms of the quality of the degree. So they had invited me to do a master's in engineering, for that matter. But I just didn't sense that that's what God wanted me to do at the time. So I'd say yes, like you said, a calling of God. And I'm so glad that I followed him, because, it's opened wonderful opportunities for me. I've been to places I would never have guessed that would be. And so even where I sit today, every day is a reminder, this is but grace.
Yeah. How many students do you have at the university?
Currently, we have 569. So it's a growing college. It's not been a big one because leaders, of course, we don't mass produce them one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 569, but it's grown. When I took up the responsibility about 6 years ago, we were about 107. So now we are about 6 times that number.
Wow, that's awesome. And men and women, or mostly men? Tell me what the makeup is.
Oh, we have a good mix, actually. We have almost a fair balance, almost half and half.
Very good, very, very good.
Yeah.
And where do the students come from? Do they come from Kenya or from all over Africa? Where do they come from?
Well, traditionally we served many parts of Africa. So we served, about 20 countries of Africa, mostly English-speaking Africa, West Africa, and Southern Africa. But lately now with technology, of course, there is no limitation to where the students can come from. So we actually have 2 students from your country, the US, and
Excellent.
one from Canada.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
So we hope we are making a contribution to your country too, right from here.
Yeah, that's great. That is wonderful. So yeah. How do you instill in your students the importance of integrity? And do students have to be Christians to come to your school, or are they just people who might be headed into government?
Anybody who is interested, maybe a quick true story would help illustrate that. In August of last year, we had one of the students sign up to come and do his master's degree in leadership. So in fact, I happened to have been in teaching a class that trimester, so I taught him. And we'll discuss issues like ethics, doing the right thing, for the right reason and so on. And he'll tell me, Professor, these things don't happen in my space. I come from politics. You cannot do these things and succeed. So he'd really wrestle with that. I could tell that there was a work of God there, but he didn't fully, get to change during my course. But he did very well. He engaged well. So he passed the course, but he didn't change his heart fully.
Yeah.
In this January this year, he enrolled in another class. And this class was about legacy making, serving others, giving to others. And I think he said he realized for the first time he didn't have what it takes to serve others because he had always focused on himself. Unfortunately, that's the truth about many people in politics. Although they will tell the populace it's for the population, it's about themselves. So he told the lecturer, not myself, another lecturer, I feel like I don't have what it takes to do what you're asking me to do. Talk about having a plan to serve others, to leave a legacy. But the lecturer was well trained. He knew that there was a gap in his spiritual life. So he had him over for tea at a different time and shared the gospel with him. And this politician gave his life to Christ.
Wow.
What has amazed us? He's an elected politician here from Nairobi, the city of Nairobi, one of the wards. And what has amazed us is the changes that have happened in his life. Within a week, he and his wife were reunited. They had been separated for quite a while, again, because of politics and all the things that come with that. But, he said he could not continue that way. He went, apologized to his wife, and they were reunited. The family was restored. In the second week, he said, he told the lecturer, the other lecturer that taught me in the last trimester kept telling me about doing the right thing. I had no power to do it. But since the decision I made, 2 weeks ago, I think now I understand and I have the power to do right. And so he made a commitment never to take a bribe, ask for a bribe. That's a big deal in our country, where bribe taking and giving is a big deal, especially for those in politics and so on, to raise money to now buy the population, so to speak. So, to cut a long story short, there are many other areas of his life. But now he has turned around. He is serving his people. And we believe that this is a business we are called to, helping people first know Christ. But secondly, of course, now he is being discipled, being, so that there can be the formation now of the character through a relationship with God, but also understanding how now to apply those principles in the area of politics. How can you be an ethical leader, even in politics? We also have other things that we do whereby he is actually now in a small group with that lecturer, together with other students. And we do that on a regular basis. I also have a small group I work with of students whom we work with closely to help them internalize and apply what they are learning in class. So it's more, that's why we say we cannot mass produce, because this is really a leader at a time. But because of their influence, once they graduate, they are able to bring significant change in their communities.
That's beautiful. I mean, what a great story of transformation for that young politician from Nairobi. I mean, it's really a blessing to hear that. a very powerful story. Do you also make the students aware of what kind of corruption they may face? I mean, bribery has many forms, as we can all imagine. So it could be like money in a paper bag. It could be, somebody promising somebody something. I mean, I don't. But do you make them aware of what they might face as they become?
It's true. Yeah, thank you. The average Kenyan faces, corruption in every form. Whether it's getting a government, services, which of course we should be getting for free because we are taxpayers. Whether it is just sometimes, getting things expedited. So it's a common experience. Most people, experience that regularly or every day. The challenge, of course, is there are few role models doing it right. So most of what we actually spend our time on is to show them, from my own example, and I've also had a chance to serve in some public roles, that you are able to do that without being corrupt, and you finish well without any hint of corruption. And that, of course, for many people, sounds like, I didn't ever think that was possible, because unfortunately also the society, the media here is skewed towards, unfortunately, only focusing on those who are doing wrong rather than applauding those who are doing right. So that's another area of change too.
Yeah. Do you make students, how do you, I suppose, encourage them to do the right thing once they get where they're going? I mean, you have the best and the brightest, and they're at your university. They're going to get opportunities once they leave the university. How do you develop that sense in them to do the right thing? I mean, you can't make anybody a Christian. I mean, it's a blessing what happened with that young Nairobi.
But not everyone does that.
Yeah.
So I think, irregardless, first of all, you want to motivate them, to show them that the only way really you can win long term, so it's to help them focus long term rather than short term, is to do what is right. Doing what is right it's its own reward. But if you focus on short term gain and so on, then of course that's when people compromise. And so we've been able to help encourage, students by showing them that it is in your best interest, actually, that you build a foundation of integrity. Anything else will not give you what you're looking for. But secondly, also to show them that many of the ills that we face as a society is because of those who have taken advantage of the weakness of others, the vulnerability talked about, to practice corruption. So do you want to join that bandwagon, or do you want to be different? Many people would like to be different. It's not easy. There's a price to be paid, but you show them then, well, I have paid that price, and I've still been successful. I think for many young people to see that you can actually live a life of integrity and still be successful is maybe the biggest testimony.
Yeah. Well, that's so well said, brother. And I'm glad that you're encouraging your students. I mean, they have you as a wonderful example, but you're encouraging them and you're telling them the right thing. Well, tonight we have a very special guest, Dr. Timothy Kiruhi in Nairobi, Kenya. He leads a university battling corruption by training and deploying hundreds of servant leaders in the marketplace, ministry, and government. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're watching Joe Watkins' State of Independence on Lighthouse TV. Positively different. Share your comments about today's program in the comment box at joewatkins.org.
Dr. Timothy Kiruhi is the Vice Chancellor of International Leadership University in Kenya. The VC is akin to being the CEO, so he's the Vice Chancellor, but he's the CEO, so he has a lot of responsibility. Tim, I want to take a minute or so to talk about your journey to faith in Christ. Were you born into a Christian family?
Yes, that was a privilege for me, but my parents were first-generation Christians. That means that their parents were not, and they were the first in their families on both sides to become Christians, and of course face a bit of opposition and struggle, but they were very committed. We had the blessing in this part of the world to have what is called the East African Revival that started out in Rwanda and kind of swept through the countries around us and really helped people to clarify what it meant to follow Christ. So my parents were involved in that, and that really was a good foundation for me.
That's excellent. And then you and your wife, where'd you meet your wife, by the way?
So I met her in Nairobi. I come, of course, from a village that's 250 kilometers from Nairobi. I only came to Nairobi when I actually came to the university. That was my first major time to really be here, and she also did the same. We then eventually both began to do Christian ministry. As I said, I joined Campus Crusade for Christ. She worked with another local mission organization. And so we connected in the context of doing the same thing with a similar mission. And that didn't take very long.
Yeah, I was at Campus Crusade for Christ when I was in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a great organization. And where did you serve in Campus Crusade? Where were you?
Also at the University of Nairobi, which was my alma mater. That's where I started out. And then I began to expand the work here in several other campuses in Nairobi. And then eventually, my wife Mary and I, that time we were married. We had one child, 2 years old. We moved from here actually as missionaries for 7 years to Zimbabwe in Southern Africa, supported again by Kenyan Christians, the church here, to go and extend the work there because the gospel was not as well established there, especially among university students.
Yeah. Well, what a blessing that you've been so faithful to God's call in your life, and you've been willing to travel to go wherever you need to go to do that, which is really a blessing. I guess you were saying that 86% of the country self-identifies as Christian, but I'm guessing, like in the United States, just because a majority of the country self-identifies as Christian doesn't mean that people act out as Christian folks do. So what is the disparity there? I mean, how large a faith community do you sense really exists there, and what are the opportunities for it to grow?
Thank you. Many people who have kind of tried to study that a bit more closely have put it somewhere around 12%, maybe 15% compared to the 85, 86.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a huge gap of many people who self-identify, like you said, but then, of course, don't live the faith. Yeah. And I think it's a discipleship gap. They have not been well nurtured in the faith. And as I said, again, they don't have maybe good role models to help them see how they can live a different life and still be successful. Yeah, many people struggle to believe that you can actually, if you choose the ethical route, they think that it's a choice of poverty. Yeah. You'll never succeed. You'll never make headway. So that's really one of the opportunities to be a witness.
Yeah. Is Christianity more prevalent in the big city like Nairobi than it is in the villages? Because you said you grew up in a village 250 kilometers from Nairobi. So like in the smaller villages, are you likely to find Christian people or people who follow?
It depends on the part of the country. The missionaries visited some of the parts of the country. There were others, of course, sometimes they didn't go to because maybe the languages were different or whatever the challenges, or maybe the terrain. So, but my part of the world, yes, I mean, many people have had the good news. Of course, the challenge of discipleship remains. Yeah. But there are other places where, of course, about half of our country actually really is a mission field. Wow. Because then many people there, have not really had a clear presentation of the gospel.
How many languages are there in Kenya? I mean, obviously English is the primary language, but
actually English is not the primary language. It is Kiswahili. But English is the official language of business. So if you want to transact in a business context or institution for teaching, we use English. But the most well-known language is Kiswahili. Wow. Which is also spoken in several other countries of Africa.
Wow. How many languages do you speak, Tim?
Personally, I speak, my mother tongue, which is Kikuyu, then, English, Swahili. I understand a bit of some of the other languages around me, a little bit of the Shona, where I know that's from Zimbabwe, where I lived. Maybe I'd say 3.5, Well, the others would be... Yeah, kind of half, but 3 I'm fluent, but the other ones will be, a little bit.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah, but yes, well, I guess for people who have not maybe had the privilege of learning several languages, but for us here it's natural. Yeah. And there are people who easily speak 5, 6 languages, just like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, brother. It's just been wonderful to have you on as my very special guest. My very special guest tonight is from Nairobi, Kenya, the Vice Chancellor or CEO of International Leadership University. He and his team at ILU are making a tremendous difference for the cause of humble and integrity-based servant leadership in Africa. I'll be right back to wrap it up with our great producer, Jeff Coleman.
Learn more about Joe Watkins and the mission of this program at joewatkins.net. And tell Joe what you thought about today's program in the comment box.
And now let's talk to our great producer, Jeff Coleman.
Well, first, I've been looking forward to this interview for a very long time. International Leadership University in Nairobi is probably the best field trip I've had for a while, really because they are getting to the heart of the issue of why countries are failing, and not just in Kenya but around the world, and that is the absence of having humble servant leaders. And you can mimic those virtues on a campaign. You can hold yourself together long enough to get elected. But the pressures of public office test you in a way that really defy description. So under the hot lights, when the money's on the table, what do? And your mind plays tricks on you. So your default has to be the things that you learn. And you have to be, you've got to know that if you take that bribe, you're going to be responsible to your spouse, you're going to be responsible to the mentor who you will see next week and who will ask you the hard questions. You're going to be responsible to your church community, then your constituents. But before you get you can trick your constituents.
Yeah.
But if you get through the people who know you the best, who intimately know you, and that's what Dr. Kiruhi and his team are doing there, which is creating an ecosystem for leadership which is going to transform Africa. In the same way the missionary movements did by introducing the gospel. This is almost the part two to what you began with, which is the arrival of the missionaries from Philadelphia 130 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's all about public service. That's what he's teaching these students, and not self-service. He was talking about how hard it was for that young politician from Nairobi.
Yeah. It is very hard because you're in an environment where prestige and showing that you have value visibly, your security detail, your car, the house you live in. So what I don't think people recognize is when anybody turns away those prizes of the seductions of office and chooses humility, people notice, and that's what Tim and his team are doing.
Yeah, wow. Amazing. Dr. Kiruhi heard the call of Christ in his life many years ago now, and he's been following ever since, saying yes to some pretty challenging assignments. But as you heard tonight, God has been faithful every step along the way. Listen for that still, small voice when he whispers a command to go. Say yes. You'll never regret it. If you found this conversation with Timothy helpful tonight, please write me a line or two. There's an easy form on my website, joewatkins.org. It comes to me and I'll write back. I'd love to hear from you. From America's first capital, Philadelphia, I'm Joe Watkins. For Jeff Coleman and the entire studio team here at Lighthouse TV, thanks so much for watching. Until we meet again, trust God, stay encouraged. We'll see you soon.